shifted the risk from east coast to the west coast, and it is increasing year after year and decade after decade. The number of very severe cyclonic storms, which we call as super cyclones, have been increased. The wind speeds have crossed more than 150 kilometers per hour, and they contributed to a huge loss and damages to the lives of people, to the assets, infrastructure, and also to the livelihood. The the loss is huge, and we are still recovering from the past cyclones, and again we are facing the new ones almost each year, or maybe in 2 years or 3 years. So these are the main concerns of coastal lines of India, and we have to we will be having some deliberations on how we can assess this risk of the changing climate, and increasing risk of hazards, the coastal hazards, how we can develop our early warning system more technologically driven, so that we can reduce our mortality significantly, and we can also reduce its impacts on our infrastructure. How we can disseminate the warnings, and how we can establish a system so that the so that it can reach the last mile, and how it is important that the community based disaster risk management process and model should be adopted. We have seen many, we in our India only, we have best practices from the cyclone recovery and response from uh, if we see Odisha, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, all have done a very good and tremendous work in establishing and strengthening the early warning system, and building the capacity of communities at a local level, which was significantly visible during the Fani cyclone. It was, if we just compare the mortality rate of the super cyclone of 90s, and we compare it to the Fani cyclone, the intensity by large was the same, but the mortality uh, and the magnitude of loss was very minimal. That was because of our strengthening system of governance of our technology and our whole disaster management system. So with this, we will be deliberating on the important topics of disaster management of the coastal areas in these 3 days. And now I request Dr. Aftab Khan for his address. Over to you, Dr. Aftab. Are you there?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I think sorry for the little hiccups from late.
Dr. Aftab, I think your bandwidth is not appropriate and your voice is not audible. Maybe you can try by switch off your video so that we can easily listen you. You're not audible, Dr. Aftab. So I think Dr. Aftab is not able to talk because of the internet loss and connectivity. So I'll be proceeding further, and I request humbly to the Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Goa University, Professor Menon, for his inaugural address. Is there anyone from Goa University there? Okay, I think the whole university is facing the internet issue. So maybe we can start with the technical sessions if people are not there, and we can have the Honorable Vice Chancellor and Dr. Aftab at the end. So is Dr. Vikrant Barje is there? Dr. Vikrant,
Hello. Yes.
are you
Good
there?
morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir. We can hear you properly. So, a very good afternoon, and I welcome you, Dr. Vikrant Barje. I will just introduce Dr. Vikrant. He is the head and assistant professor of Department of Zoology at ASC College, Maharashtra, and I request him to deliberate on the topic climate change and need of disaster management. So, over to you, sir.
Thank you. I'll just share my
Yeah, can you all
presentation.
hear me? Either Saab?
Yeah, Dr. Aftab, we can hear you,
Can
but
someone
actually
can
you are not there. So we started with the technical session.
can you all
Is
hear me?
Vice Chancellor sir, is there? So we can have his address. Otherwise, we can start with the technical session.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I take over from Mr. Haider. Okay. Welcome to all. And yeah, we plan these 3 days to give you a glimpse of other various domains of disasters that can happen to the coastal zones, both on the landward side as well as on the seaside. We really find that we are at a stage wherein we need to do something. Goa University, on its size, is there working to develop manpower as per the needs of the society and the times, okay, and the nation. And NIDM, on its part, is relentlessly working to bring about awareness of these disasters, and also it's working to reduce the impact of this disaster so that it together move towards making India a strong nation. Anthropogenic activities, as listed out by Mr. Haider, has very rightfully brought in the impact of anthropogenic activities, which we find that yes, it's time to look at it. And as these anthropogenic activities and the disasters have linkages to biological and biological domain, especially through atmosphere and ocean, we find that these disasters will not restrict to just certain areas. It will have global impact. For just one example of that is has been the COVID. Though it is not a kind of a disaster which we are looking at in this particular session. Goa University and NIDM, yeah, are now have joined together to this training program about awareness. And in this short span of time, we'll give you a glimpse of the types of disasters which we encountered in the coast. Not all, but some of them. Awareness and action plans remains vital to reduce the impact of any disaster on coastal zone, so as to make our, and this will certainly make our country a leading nation, especially in the domain of enhancing our blue economy, because that happens as the last frontier of food and other resources. I wish all the success to every participants. Thank you. With this, may I request our Honorable Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Savita Kerkar, to address us.
Hello, madam. Your voice is mute. Hello.
Your mic is muted.
Okay, sorry. Uh, Thank you, Mr. Ali Haider and Dr. Aftab Khan for the brief introduction about the workshop. And on behalf of my Vice Chancellor, I welcome all of you here. And I think 110 of you have joined, so which is a good number. And I wish more of you can join for this immense online training program on risk assessment and disaster management in coastal areas, which is from the 22nd to the 24th of February, which is jointly organized by the National Institute of Disaster Management, New Delhi, and Goa University. It gives me a great pride that these workshops are now arranged, because we always used to feel that the disasters always occur in the East Coast. However, we are on the West Coast, and I think we are going to face a lot of disasters in future if you see all the changing climate conditions. Now, I'm very happy that this program will bring together lots of experts and academicians and policymakers and key stakeholders on a common platform to deliberate and share, exchange, and disseminate knowledge to a larger audience. And I saw that the objectives of the program is to create awareness about the disaster risk in the coastal areas and to learn about disaster management and mitigation along the coastal belt, which I think is very essential. And if I saw the various presentation, this program focuses on various aspects of disaster management and community preparedness and resilience. And I think it will give you an understanding on different policies, strategies, and management and criteria involved, and to impart a knowledge and a know-how to implement resilience strategies to make our country less vulnerable to environmental hazards and recover from these disasters. So I think it's going to be a very useful workshop, and I wish all the organizers good luck and all the best for your future deliberations. Thank you very much. Yes, back to Aftab Khan.
Thank
Or
you,
Nikita?
madam.
Yeah, Nikita, okay.
Good
Nice
afternoon
to
to all.
see Dr. Nikita and Dr. Chanda Berde also organizing this. All the
Thank
best
you.
for you. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon to all. I am Dr. Nikita Lotlikar. I'm an assistant professor at SEOAS Goa University, and I'm the moderator for today's program. I request our first speaker, invited speaker, Dr. Vikrant Berde, the head and assistant professor of Department of Zoology, AS College, Lanja, Maharashtra, to please give his talk today. The topic for his talk is climate change and the need for disaster management. Over to you, sir.
Yes, I will share my window. Can you see the presentation? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Should I go ahead? Can I start?
Yes, sir. You may please start.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. And I'm Dr. Vikrant Berde, Assistant Professor in Department of Zoology, Arts, Commerce, Science College, Lanza. At the same time, I'm also a climate leader under the Climate Reality Project India. And we are doing awareness about the climate change and it's about the climate crisis and all these things. So let's start. First of all, I would like to show you a nice, beautiful picture of our blue planet. And this photo of Earth was captured from Apollo 17, taken as a crew when it was traveling towards the moon on December 7, 1972. And this particular picture itself indicates that how beautiful the Earth is, and we are all living on this Earth. And this picture is also known as blue marble and taken during the last Apollo mission. So the main concern of today's training program is about the disaster management. And all of us, we know that disasters are coming very frequently to Earth. And the number of disasters we are experiencing is increasing. So the reason there may be different reasons, and the main reason what I found is one of the reason is that global warming or climate change. So our Earth is warming from the data we collected from 1880 to 2012. The average global temperature is raised by 0.85 degrees Celsius. Though it looks very small increase, but it was also predicted that by 2100 this increase will exceed to 2 degrees Celsius compared to 1850 to 1900. And we all know the reason behind it is the climate change. This small change in average temperature of Earth lead to large and potentially dangerous shift in the climate and weather, and the effects or the impacts what we are seeing or experiencing is rising global temperature plus change in the weather and climate, and which leads to changes in the rainfall pattern resulting in more floods, droughts, or intense rains, as well as more frequent and severe heat wave. So in this picture, you can see one side it is heat wave due to which there is a drought, severe drought, and the other side there is a heavy rainfall and floods. So these are the two kinds of things we observe due to climate change and also due to the global warming. So the main thing what we can see, the science behind the climate change, we all know, so I will not go in detail of that. But climate change basically it encompasses global warming and refers to as broader change due to the greenhouse gases. Whatever greenhouse gases are coming out from the earth, reaching to the earth atmosphere, depleting the ozone layer, and due to which ultraviolet rays are reaching to the earth. Whatever filter is there of ozone layer that is depleting, there are holes in the ozone layer, and the direct ultraviolet rays reaching, which is increasing the global temperature. On the right side, you can see there's a graph which shows us about the increasing greenhouse gases in the atmosphere uh, from 0 to 2000 years. And here you can see the rise of carbon dioxide basically, and it was very less at the beginning of this 2000s, and even 1500 years, and in 2000 years due to industrialization and industrial development it has increased tremendously. Next slide, which shows us about the smoke coming from a coal mine, or we can say the coal industry. And this smokestacks of plant Hamod, a coal-fired power plant in Rome, Georgia, indicates that how much greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide and other gases we are releasing in the atmosphere. And the graph also showed us how the amount of greenhouse gases is increasing. At the same time, we know that we have to go for development. We need to generate more employment. Then we have more requirements of things. So we cannot stop all these things suddenly. But at the same time, we have to find out the way where we can reduce the greenhouse emission or greenhouse gases. This is one of the graph which shows the global carbon emission from fossil fuels, and that also indicates how much uh, carbon is emitted in the atmosphere due to this burning of fossil fuels. And this graph will not come down if we will not take any action. It will go on increasing. This CO2 is being released into the atmosphere faster than at any time in at least the last 66 million years. So last 66 million years, or maybe last 2000 years, if you'll check, we'll understand that it is not a natural calamity or natural change. It is a artificial change, and only human beings are responsible for this particular change. And after industrial development or more civilization, it has increased the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. If you see the top 24 greenhouse gas emitters in the world, we'll see many big developed nations. But number 3 is our India, who is also responsible for greenhouse emission. First is China, second is United States. They are sometimes we say that they are developed nations and they are more contributing, but India and China basically due to more number of population, they are also contributing in the greenhouse emission. So from where this particular greenhouse gas emission comes from, and in this particular pie chart you can see the energy is responsible for more emission of greenhouse gases, and the others thing, waste, industry, or the agriculture and aviations, they are coming in 30%. The 70% share is from the energy sector. I'm going little bit fast because we have to see what are the consequences we are facing due to climate change, and how we can manage the disaster management. We are going to, you are also, all the participants are going to listen many things about the disaster management. So I will give more focus on climate change and its impact on the earth and what kind of disasters we are facing due to climate change. So this
Sir,
is
sorry to interrupt you. You may please take your time. You need not go
hello,
fast. You may please take your time.
because they are saying half an hour it is.
So you may continue
So
till 3. No issues.
okay, thank you. So this is one of the slide where we can see the 14 hottest, 15 hottest year, and out of that 14 are from 2001. So that itself indicates 2016 was the hottest year until now we have recorded. 2009 was the second, 2017, 2010, and 2022. I have highlighted it. It is the fifth highest record of temperature on the Earth, and it is not that only a particular part of Earth is warming. It is the entire Earth, entire globe is warming, and which shows that if we'll correlate with the increasing temperature with the events happening, there is evidences which IPCC has given that only climate change is responsible for all these events. So 2016 is the hottest year and 2022 is the fifth highest temperature years recorded, and it will not come down. I'm sure that if we will not take any action, it will not come down. We have kept the target of that we will not go beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius in this coming 5 years. For that, the COP 26 and 27, they have taken many actions, and they have given it to many countries, these assignments. And according to that, if we'll follow, then the temperature will remain in the control. Otherwise, the temperature will continue rising in the coming years also. So 2016 was the highest temperature recorded, and it was 51 degrees Celsius on May 19, 2016. India recorded 51 degrees Celsius. That is the highest temperature. Now, as we are discussing about the coastal disaster management, we can see that whatever heat is generated, out of that 93% of the extra heat trapped by man-made global warming pollution goes into the ocean. And it is not that only land or the air is warming. Along with both these things, oceans or seawater is also warming. And it has a very bad impact on the biodiversity of all these seas and oceans. You can see the increase in the global ocean heat, and you can see from 1950 to 2010 and 2015, the graph is in the upper side, increasing tremendously, and which indicates that there is not only effect on the terrestrial habitats or the freshwater habitats, it has a bad impact on oceans. How India is, we are going to see many other aspects which are related to world, but how we are going to affect due to climate change. What kind of changes will take place in a country like a developing country like India? There's a map of, given on the right side, and the left side we can see how expected climate change impact on India. The one we can see, that is the changes in the weather patterns. Second, we have experienced last 2-3 years or maybe 5-10 years the increase in the cyclonic disturbances on both west coast as well as on the east coast. Then third is the rise in the sea level. That is also we are experiencing, though it is in the centimeters. It will not take time to reach to the meters. Okay, and increase in the centimeters of particular centimeters of seawater level will also destroy many habitats near the coastal areas. Then next is the changes in the agriculture yield due to increasing global temperature and due to climate change. changing this weather patterns, our agriculture is also getting affected. And the most important thing that they have recorded, that whatever agriculture yield we are getting, the quality of that agriculture yield is also not good. Okay, the nutritional values are decreasing, and that's why we are not getting a sufficient nutrition to our increasing population. Then next is the changes in freshwater supply due to over evaporation of water in many places. Excuse me. Many places we can experience a drought, as well as a drying of many important rivers, which are a resource of fresh waters for our population. And these rivers are becoming polluted. That is another thing. But the pattern is changing. The water which is reaching to the river is also changing. So overall, it has a adverse impact on the river and freshwater ecosystems. It has impact on forest as well as natural ecosystems, and we are going to see in the later part how it is going to affect the biodiversity, how much biodiversity is affected, and how many species are reaching to extinction level. And last, which we have experienced for last 2-3 years, that is the impact on the human health. And we have experienced last 2 years, and now also we are experiencing deadly virus like COVID-19, which become pandemic. And it was predicted long back that many such kind of viruses will become active due to the changing climate, and this may lead to adverse effect on the health of human being. There are graph will show the which are the cities in India, or which are the particular areas in India are more vulnerable, and which indicates that mostly in from Maharashtra, you can see is Nagpur, then Vidarbha part, Maharashtra, Mumbai, and this particular west coast is badly affected. Then in Delhi and all metropolitan cities, they have impact of climate change. They are also experiencing it. So, what are the recent events which have experienced? Yesterday only there was a news about the floods in New Zealand. Then there was a flood in Brazil. Earlier there was very few events we used to listen, but today it is like every day there is some or other news from not only from India but from outside foreign countries also, not from only east or west. From all sides we are getting the different kind of climate related disasters. On like one side there is a drought, and the other side the picture also indicates, one side there is a drought, while the other side there is a heavy rainfall, which is destroying the properties and responsible for deaths of many people. So next we can see what are the consequences or events we can observe in last 10-20 years. One of this is this cyclone Saroja in Indonesia, then tornadoes in the Kentucky. There is a storm in 2022 in Texas. Then we have observed India and Sri Lanka in 2021 Taukte cyclone, and even we have experienced it in Goa about the Nisarga cyclone and Taukte cyclone. Then there is a tornado in 2020, Typhoon Vamco in Philippines. Then other side there is a wild fires in Mediterranean countries. Then snowfall in Japan. Texas there is a winter, and you can see the person who is removing the this snow from the road. And we have seen it in Jammu Kashmir also. Almost 6 feet snow was there on the road, and there was a snow in Saudi Arabia also. Snowfall in Saudi Arabia somewhere. That was also news. We have experienced in 2019 and 2020 the wildfires in Australia, Brazil, and the tropical rainforest was burning almost. So even in Amazons, we have seen the wildfires. So all these events earlier, they were happening, but it was the percentage of event is increased in coming this last 10 years. In 2021, Russian forest also was on these wildfires. California also experienced the wildfires. So why I'm showing these events, because these all are the disasters which are faced uh, by throughout the globe. Another thing we are experiencing, that is the melting of ice from in the Arctic. And this picture itself shows that a penguin which is sitting on ice has seeing all the ice melting around, and their life or their species are under danger. So if this ice will melt, the sea level rise is will be always there. In this particular graph, you can see from 1980 to 2020, almost 12.85% ice has been melted. And another thing we are experiencing, that is the half of the ice has been already melted on Arctic, and there is a jet stream which has become rare, and it leads to extreme weather conditions like impact on the Indian monsoon, then Atlantic monsoon, winter and summer, which are getting affected due to this jet stream effect. And we are experiencing more cyclones which are formed due to rainfall and disruptions in last 3 years, and that is called as the blue ocean event. So this is one of the thing which is of important concern for the climate change scientists, that if this will happen, it is going to affect badly the weather of or climate of the earth. These are some of the pictures you can see. These all are developed nations. They have a good quality of lifestyle, but in front of climate or in front of climate change, they cannot do anything. All their cars are underwater. They cannot go out from their homes. This is hurricane, in effect of hurricane, and you can see here how much devastating effect it is showing on this particular Dutch Martin Island. Now let's see what happened in India. At least 1,400 people have died in a flood across South Asia during the 2017 monsoon. This is picture from Mumbai and near the railway station, and you can see the entire road is under the water. And the number, if you'll see, in a one day rainfall, if 1,400 people are dying, it's really shocking. This is again one of the event, that is the floods in Kerala in 2018, and just see how much the flood water has entered inside. The reason may be the planning, whatever town planning is there of these cities is not proper. They have not planned according to the coming disasters, and in future we have to think about the kind of town planning they are making. They have to consider about this kind of disaster which is related to climate change, and then only we can save the lives of many people. Otherwise these events will go on increasing in future also. This is in Mumbai in 2020, and right side picture is about Kolhapur and Sangli. The highway was closed for almost 8 to 10 days, and so many villages are out of contact. So this NDRF team reached there, and they have done excellent work of evacuating these people from their houses, and all these people stayed for maybe 15 or 20 days outside their houses, and later on when the water went down, then only they could reach back. This is another pictures of from India. The level of water on the road. This we have all must have seen in Rishikesh, the statue of Lord Shankara. It has been taken away by the speed of this water. So in the Uttarakhand, every year now we are seeing in the Joshimath or Badrinath, there is a cracks on the roads, and it is an indication that yesterday I heard news about the uh, earthquake in Turkey, new earthquake in Turkey on Monday, and they were saying that these indications of Badrinath and Joshimath, it tells us that in future, in coming maybe months or in the year, there will be a heavy earthquake in the this particular region is going to come, and it is an indication given by a great geologist. I forgot his name, but according to him, we are going to face similar kind of event like Turkey in Uttarakhand and this a part like Badrinath and Kedarnath. This is in case of Kedarnath. We know this event and how many people died, how many are missing, and how much the loss of property we have seen. This is in China. I will go a little bit fast about this all these things, and I just want to tell you that excuse me. I just want to tell you that it is not only happening in India or in Southeast Asia. It is happening everywhere. This picture is from England, and same picture everywhere there is a flood. Then this is in case of Germany, and 125 people become dead, and almost 1,000 people are missing. On other side, one side we have seen a lot of rainfall and floods, while other side we can see there is no rainfall. We can see the drought in Tamil Nadu, which is experiencing the worst drought in last 140 years. And this is the picture of one of the lake, and it is entirely dried. Okay, and it is directly affecting the agriculture and the life of people. This in 2016, Maharashtra has experienced this drought, and over 400 farmers in Maharashtra committed suicide in the first 4 months of 2016 due to pressure from ongoing regional droughts. And in parts like districts like Latur and all, they have to supply water from the train. So the train full of water tanks was given to them, and then only they could survive during that particular period. Another effect is on the Indian glaciers. The glaciers are also melting, and it is already started. This is the picture in 1936 and now 2006 in the same month, and we can see the glaciers are already melted, and it is remaining on the top of the hills only. So this has also adverse impact because these all are good sources of fresh water, and if this fresh water directly reaching to the sea, that means it will increase the sea level, and we are also losing the source of fresh water. Okay, this is another picture which is showing about the reduction in the uh, amount of snow from the polar region. This is in 1980, and this is in 2007. We can see how much ice or how much area under the ice was removed from the this polar region. It indicates that this water, when it is melted, it will increase the volume. The volume of the water will increase, and it will spread in more areas. And directly, it will reach to the sea. So it will rise the sea level. This is another picture which is showing that declining ice mass in the Greenlands. So from 2002 to 2016, the ice mass in the Greenland has reduced to a particular stage. And this graph indicates that all these countries which are showing these kind of things are uh, are in danger, but at the same time the event is not happening at a particular country. It has a global impact. It is not that when the glaciers are melting or the ice is melting in the Arctic and Antarctica, it is going to affect only that particular region. It is going to affect the entire weather pattern of our globe, and that is very dangerous. If we'll see the conditions of Sundarbans, we can see here that almost 20% of mangroves have been lost in last 40 years. And sorry, Sundarbans, we know that it is the biggest mangrove forest in India and Bangladesh, and there's a lot of rich biodiversity is there. There are many animals and aquatic life is dependent on this particular Sundarbans. Even a Bengal tiger is existing in that Sundarban mangrove forest. And if the forest is decreasing, it is going to affect not only these animals and plants, but the all the coastal population which are dependent on these mangroves. This is one of the island which is sinking, and it will go in maybe next 5-10 years. It will go under the water. It is directly affecting the biodiversity, and the biodiversity is at higher risk, and 50% of all living species in the century are becoming extinct. Another thing, we are going to see effect on the food supply. Our food security is in danger. Then we are water problems, freshwater problems. The global health issues will be increasing. Maybe we are experiencing that global health issues like dengue, malaria, then all swine flus, COVID-19. They are increasing. Okay, and then if there are many such events happening, we cannot concentrate on even on development. Last 2 years we have experienced it due to COVID. So many people, they lost their lives. At the same time, they have lost their jobs. Okay, so what is the use of this kind of development if it is going to affect our climate, or it is going to affect our weather? At the same time, we have a bad impact on infrastructures. Many bridges and infrastructures are collapsing due to the events like floods, and due to events like earthquakes and all. So we have to think about whether we are going on the right pattern of development. Is it the right way of going towards the development, or we have to take a way of sustainable development? We have to follow the goals given by the this United Nations Millennium Goals. If we'll follow these Millennium Goals, then only we can get secured in life on this globe. Otherwise, it is very dangerous situation. Mostly, the people who will get affected will be people which are living in the slum areas, and they are facing many problems due to heat waves. Some of them, like they are facing problems of cardiovascular diseases, then respiratory diseases, then people who are elderly with many problem of immunities will be affected. The people like heavy laborers, they are also getting affected, because the most important thing that if the heat wave will increase, they don't have any resources. They are dependent totally on nature. Okay, they are not getting hello. Yes, they are not getting the medical services, proper medical services. They are not getting the nutrition,
Please mute
and
Nivedita Mittal. Please mute Nivedita Mittal.
because of
Okay.
that, these people, they are like they will face many problems than a normal people, like middle class or higher class people. So we have to think about these people also. They are also population and of our country. And if heat wave will increase, we have to see in this summer also. If the heat wave will increase, so many people will die due to the heat wave. Which are the top 10 cities at the risk? I'm not going to read all the names, but the first is the Kolkata, and the second is the Mumbai, and third is Dhaka. So all they are around us, and I think three of them are from India only, which are going to face sea level problem till 2070. Kolkata is at highest risk, and second is the Mumbai. Okay, just imagine that earthquake like Turkey will come to Mumbai. What will happen? What kind of situation we have to face? What is the need of disaster management in case of tsunami? I'm just taking one example because I'm not going to in details of what is the other disaster events which are happening. As it is with the coastal events, I'm just taking one example of tsunamis. What is tsunami? We have experienced it in 2004, and we can see the wave, the height of the wave, and how devastating it is. It is coming out from the sea and reaching to a long distance. So in such situations, if you don't have a strong disaster management plan, then we have to lose lives of many people, because this kind of events we don't have a good prediction system. We don't understand very early that tsunami is going to hit on our coastal areas. Okay, the research is going on, but still we cannot predict 100% what is happening down or inside the sea. So we have to be careful when mostly in the coastal areas, we are residing in the coastal areas, they have to be careful. And though our west coast, it is not prone to is not tsunami prone area, but our Indian Ocean is highly prone, and we have experienced this tsunami in 2004. What kind of disasters we have observed in India? We mostly in Pondicherry, then Andaman Nicobar Islands, and Tamil Nadu, Chennai. We have experienced these tsunamis. I have visited these places in Andaman Nicobar Island and in Chidambaram and parts of Tamil Nadu. It was really shocking that in a period of maybe 10-15 minutes, everything was disturbed. Only the places where the mangroves were there, they were little bit protected, and there's no loss of lives in this particular region where there were mangroves. So, what we can do as a disaster management plan? And so I'm not going in detail because you are going to hear it from many other experts from the disaster management system. So tsunamis, or the harbor wave, is a series of waves in a water body caused by the displacement of large volume of water, generally in a ocean or a large lake. And the reason may be the earthquake or volcanic eruptions or some events which are happening inside the sea, or the this meteorite impacts and the other disturbances which will leads to the tsunami like condition. It can be also wave train. Tsunamis is a generally consist of a series of waves with periods ranging from minutes to hours, arranging in a is so called a wave train. Now, what we should do before tsunami? You should build an emergency kit and a family communication plan. That means if you are living in a tsunami prone areas, you have to have a emergency kit with you. Okay, and if suddenly something will happen, you have to have a plan for communication with your family. You should know what is the height of your house from the sea level, where you are staying. Is it very close to the sea level, or you are staying on the upper side? If you are staying near the sea level, then you have more risk. So you have to wait for the evacuation order given by number of agencies. Familiarize yourself with the local tsunami evacuation protocol. Know your community warning system and disaster plans, including the evaporation routes. And then practice your vacation plan. So, in such disasters, in such kind of disasters like tsunami, what kind of uh, plan you can do? The main things here you can see is how we can act in this kind of situation. So this particular picture shows that when tsunami will come, don't become panic. Just drop down, try to cover yourself, and try to hold on in that particular situation. Then next is try to go on the high ground or inlands and try to stay there till the tsunami goes down. We have experienced it. Even I was in this sea in West Coast in Ratnagiri. We are doing sampling, and we have experienced tsunami waves. Not a very like Indian Oceans, but we have experienced a little bit when we on 26th December 2004, and it was a very small experience for us, and from that we can understood that how much this east coast people they must have experienced it. So what to do during the tsunami? Evacuate the place immediately, take your animals with you, move inland to higher ground immediately. Almost you should reach to 100 feet or 30 meters above the sea level, or go as far as 3 kilometers in length away from the coastline. Stay away from the beach. Save yourself, not your possessions. So leave all the possessions and just leave from that particular place. Don't think about your house and what other things are there. Leave that place and go away. Remember to help your neighbors or those which are required assistance, like infant, elderly people, and individuals with the special needs. But first, you have to protect yourself, and then only you can help others. Return only after the local officials tells you that it is a safe. Avoid disaster area. Stay away from the debris in the water which is coming in the towns. Help yourself before helping others, injured or trapped persons. In some, if someone need rescued, call professionals with the right equipment to help. NDRF is doing really wonderful work, and I have seen it during the flood in Chiprun and even in a flood in Kolhapur. That this team reaches immediately and they start their work, and because of them, we have in India at least, they have saved lives of many people. Help people who requires special assistance. Continue using radio or tuning to post gas station or local radio or television station for the latest updates. Stay out of any building that has water around it. And another things, you can volunteer it. You can become a volunteer in such kind of situations. We cannot think about ourselves only. We have to help others. If you are safe, then you can think about helping others. That is the you can do the community development. You can go for educating people about the disasters and they can get how they can protect themselves from the disasters. So awareness is very important thing. Then eco environmental work they can do. Then social welfare, marshalling of population to the shelter or safe areas, and traffic management. All these things can be done by the volunteers. So the basic thing, what I want to say here, that climate change, we cannot take doubt on climate change. because it is happening and we are experiencing it. So what we can do, what can be a solutions for this? We can see here some children, they are planting trees. Even we can come with some good ideas and plant indigenous trees. We are doing, I have a NGO called Society for Environment and Biodiversity Conservation, through which every year, along with NSS volunteers and farmers, we are planting trees in Western Ghats of Ratnagiri and Kolhapur district. And we are also trying to see that they will survive. So this is one of the best thing we can do for climate change, that planting the trees, so that greenhouse gases can be reduced. Another thing, in short, I will tell you about what we can do as a person. We can minimize the use of fossil fuels like petrol and diesel, stop emission of CO2 by burning of coal, stop deforestation, plant more trees, cover barren land by trees, minimize the use of electricity, power off computer, AC, TV, heater, fan, etc. when they are not in use. Use car which creating low pollution. You can walk, you can use bicycle, build houses which has natural light, that is eco-friendly houses. Avoid plastic, use CFL bulbs or LED bulbs which consume more less energy. Minimize the use of paper. These are the things we can easily do at our end, and we can reduce the impact of climate change on our earth. And this is high time that we should understand the importance of the climate change and its the crisis we are going to face in the future. So with this, thank you very much for patient listening. And if you have any questions, you can ask. Hello.
Thank you, sir. If any of the participants have any questions, you may ask them now. You may also type your questions in the chat box. If we do not have any questions, we may go ahead with the second session, and we may keep all the questions at the end of the program. I now request Dr. Priya DeCosta, our second invited speaker. She's a program director and assistant professor of Marine Microbiology Program, School of Earth, Ocean and Atmospheric Sciences, Goa University. You may please start with your session, madam. Our topic for today is strategies to manage oil spills in the marine environment. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nikita. Can you hear me?
Dr. DeCosta, can you please put on your video?
Yes, I've started it, sir.
Yeah.
It's showing
Video,
as
your
on.
video. Yeah.
Sir Berde, could you
Thank
please
you.
stop presenting?
I'm sharing mine now. Can you see my presentation? Yes, presenting.
Yes, it's visible.
It's visible, right? Okay. So I'll start. So thank you, Nikita. And hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Priya DeCosta. I'm from the School of Earth, Ocean and Atmospheric Sciences, and I'm from the marine microbiology field. So today, I'm going to speak about strategies to manage oil spills in the marine environment. And I'm trying not to focus entirely on marine microbiology and those aspects, but in general, which are the strategies used when such disasters occur. So to start, first coming directly to the Exxon Valdez oil spill, I'll basically discuss two examples here. This is the first one. So this Exxon Valdez oil spill happened in March 1989. And this happened in the Gulf of Alaska. It was a major disaster, and an oil tanker crashed into a reef in the Gulf of Alaska. And that tore open its hull and ultimately released 11 million gallons of crude oil into the environment. Now, this is actually the second largest oil spill in the history of the US. Okay, and this caused a lot of devastation. But before that, before moving on to the devastating effects, I just want to show you all this picture. Now, please note that this oil spill occurred in the Gulf of Alaska, which is close to the Arctic Circle. And because of that, since it was in such a remote area, by the time remedial measures could be put into place, several days had already elapsed, and the oil spill had already covered several kilometers. Now, because of this, there's this one representative picture actually. Because of this, a lot of wildlife was impacted. Many of them lost their lives. Now, you may wonder, there's this picture of a bird here which is covered in oil. And many of these birds and many such animals lost their lives. Okay. And in terms of volume of oil discharged during the oil spill, the Exxon Valdez oil spill is the second largest in US waters. In terms of numbers, it killed over 1 lakh, more than 1 lakh marine species, including 250,000 seabirds, many sea otters, 2,800, more than that, in fact, and more than 300 harbor seals. And then there were extensive efforts to remove the oil from there to contain the oil spill. And then there were many strategies put into place. Now, this is one, and this is one spill that happened in the wilderness or in a so-called remote area. Then we had another one. The next one, which I'm speaking about now, is the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. This happened at an oil rig called the Deepwater Horizon rig in the Gulf of Mexico. And this was in April 2010. Now, what happened here was that there was an oil well being explored, and these are very deep wells in the Gulf of Mexico. And during one such exploration, the entire oil rig, it actually exploded. It killed 11 workers, and the resulting oil spill, it went on. There was oil spilling out into the Gulf of Mexico for 3 months because that well just couldn't be capped. Okay, and the protective mechanism to cap the well had failed. So this resulted in an oil spill for more than 3 months. And this, in fact, is the largest spill in the history of the United States. Overall, an estimated 53,000 barrels were flowing into the Gulf of Mexico on a daily basis. Compared to the Exxon Valdez oil spill, this leak is 12 times more. Okay, so you can imagine the magnitude of that. And it killed over 82,000 birds, approximately 26,000 marine mammals, 6,000 sea turtles, and thousands of fish. And these are just the reported numbers. Many reports even say that these are underestimates, and far more number of animals were impacted. In fact, many of these animal populations, whether in the Gulf of Mexico or in the Gulf of Alaska, these have still not recovered. Even after like 35 years, these have still not recovered to their pre-oil spill levels. So here, just to summarize, this is a picture of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill trying to be contained by these ships which are spraying water. And if you can just notice the blaze and the water, you can actually have an idea of how huge this inferno is. So now when you have these oil spills, first of all, of course, they damage aquatic life. And if you remember the picture that I showed you of the birds, okay, that bird covered entirely with oil, that when birds are covered with oil, when animals are covered with oil, it robs them of their insulating properties. All right. And then they become easy prey for predators. They can't fly, especially in case of birds. And many of them, to try to get comfortable, they try to peck off the oil from their bodies. Okay, they try to lick it off and peck at it. And in this way, that oil then enters their system and it is then toxic for them. And I have read in one article that if you need to understand how bad it is for them, it's like it's the equivalent of humans being forced to drink oil instead of water. So for birds and other marine animals, it is like that. It's like being forced to live, to be covered in oil instead of water. So you can imagine how detrimental this is for them. And and these are the effects of oil spill. So damage to aquatic life, then decreased photosynthesis because there's this oil spill spreading over the surface of the water, and then the affected animals are easy targets for predation. And of course, when marine organisms, they ingest these oil spill, this oil that has spilled over, and that then accumulates as you move up the food chain, and finally it starts. It can even reach humans. So now that was all about the ecological aspect. But do oil spills have a financial impact? So yes, definitely. And not just because of the loss of oil and the loss of all these resources, but also because of the loss of livelihood. Now this picture here is of people protesting. These people are actually workers, or they are people who work in the seafood based industries in Alaska, and they are protesting at Exxon's headquarters after the Exxon Valdez oil spill. They are protesting there because their livelihood was impacted. Because of that, after the oil spill, fisheries took a huge hit, and people there in that area, they actually lost their jobs. So oil spills are a disaster that affects not only the environment in a major way, but also the economy of a country and the livelihood of people. So now, how exactly do countries and people, governments, how do they address and respond to the oil spill? So first, the foremost concern of emergency response workers is human safety. The first thing to see is whether humans are safe or no and not affected by these spills or by these accidents. And secondly, the second most important thing is to protect natural resources. So responders, they try to reduce damage from the spill by trying to predict where the oil is going to spread in the environment, depending on wind, currents, etc. And then they determine the best strategies to protect marine life and to protect animals. And whatever action must be taken quickly, because spilled oil can spread rapidly depending on the wind and currents. And finally, they coat aquatic life and impact habitats such as wetlands and even nursing grounds for several important species. So now, what happens to an oil spill? We'll just look at that in this slide, and then we'll move on to the different strategies to manage oil spills. So what happens when you have an oil spill? Okay, so when there's an oil spill, it will first spread over the surface of the water, and then there are several physical and chemical processes. Some fractions of the oil will evaporate, some of them will get oxidized, some of them will get emulsified and move towards the shore. So that depends on the currents and the wind. So the fate of an oil spill depends on many natural processes. All right. And ultimately, most of the oil, especially the lighter fractions, they tend to come up to the surface. Now, in this, there are many microorganisms which are present in the environment. And some of these microorganisms can actually degrade the oil. So if you look here on the left-hand side, there's microbial degradation. So these microorganisms, they can attach to these oil molecules and then they will degrade it. And finally, a lot of this, it accumulates together, these microorganisms, the hydrocarbons from the oil, and they can even in the form of marine snow. So this is the fate of an oil spill. So even if an oil spill is left unattended, it's definitely, it's going to spread out and disperse. But it's in that process, it's going to affect a lot of wildlife, marine life, and humans as well. And it will take a long, long time to, like for the weathering process and for oxidation. So it's really going to take a very long time for the natural weathering to occur. So to hasten that process, we have several strategies to manage oil spills. We want to hasten that process of breaking down the oil so that it no longer negatively affects the marine system and the organisms. So now so I'll discuss different strategies here. And one of them is microbial bioremediation, which is what we generally, at least that's our field of work. Okay. So now let's just go through these different strategies. Now, before I start with these, I want to say that the strategies are chosen based on a case-to-case scenario, depending on the extent of the oil spill. Is it small or is it large? Then how far is it from the shore? Okay, then yeah, if it's very far from the shore, and if it is a small quantity, a small volume, then sometimes nature is allowed to take its course. But if it is a large volume, then of course humans have to intervene. Then how distant it is from the coast, what is the likelihood of fishing grounds and human livelihoods being affected? Then also, what are the wind patterns, what are the current patterns? All those points have to be taken into consideration. Also, what is the nature of oil that is spilled? Is it light oil, heavy oil? Because all these have different spreading characteristics and different what should I say? They can be broken down differently by different groups of microorganisms. Some will be broken down faster, some will take a long time to break down. So all these points need to be considered while selecting strategies to manage these oil spills. So now the first one here is construction of sand berms. So here sediment or sand is collected, and they are barriers, physical barriers around the coastline are built to prevent the oil from coming close to the shore. All right, so these are called sand berms. But sand berms are not always effective, especially when you have places where there is high wave activity, etc. They are not always effective. But this is one of them. The second one is having something called booms. Okay, so these booms are actually barriers like this, containment barriers. I've shown you two pictures here. One is an aerial picture. So these booms are deployed from ships, and they tend to contain the oil spill in a particular region. All right. So these are booms, and just some description of that. So these are barriers that float on the water surface, and they prevent oil from spreading further into surrounding waters. Booms consist of three parts. There's a freeboard which floats above the water surface and prevents oil from spreading to the other areas. And then you have another part called a skirt, which is suspended under the water, that prevents oil from mixing in the lower parts of the water column or just below the surface. And finally, you have a cable which connects the booms and forms a containment barrier. So in this way, you are physically constraining the oil spill to one localized area. Now, this method of using booms is very effective when the oil spill has just occurred and when it is in its early stages. All right. Once it has already spread, then this is not a very good idea. So this method is effective when the oil spill is in its early stages, and it needs to be used in calm weather. If the conditions are rough, when you have rough seas, etc., it is not going to be effective because of the wind and currents. Now the second approach here is using skimmers. There's a skimmer here. Now what are these skimmers? Skimmers are actually used in conjunction with booms. Booms will concentrate the oil spill or the oil slick on the surface of the water. Booms will concentrate them in a small area. And then you have a skimmer attached. Now skimmer is nothing but an oil scoop. It's a scoop. Okay. And this serves to remove the oil that has concentrated in that area. It removes the oil that has concentrated on the surface in a limited area. So skimmers are oil scoops that can be deployed through boats to remove oil from the water surface. And this is done in association with deployment of booms. So booms concentrated, skimmers remove the surface oil. Now there are several types of skimmers. Some of them act like a dam and they trap oil during water flow. Others work by suction. Some others, they have a rotating surface, either like a belt or a drum, and that attracts oil. Then this oil is actually scraped off into a collection container. In this way, the surface oil is removed using skimmers. However, skimmers also have disadvantages. They are ineffective when dealing with thick, viscous fractions of oil, emulsified oil, weathered oil, diesel, gasoline, or if conditions are windy, then these skimmers are not very effective. Another problem is marine debris. Whatever is floating in the water, marine debris can actually jam the skimmer, and this can then block the skimmer and complicate cleanup efforts. So going on to the third category, after booms and fourth actually, we did booms. skimmers, and now surface collecting agents, also called herders. Now, this is a relatively new concept, and this is used in areas where you cannot deploy booms. And I'll tell you why. First, let's just go through this. So this is actually a case study, or rather something that is proposed, that would be better, proposed to be used in polar environments where, because of ice floating on the surface of water, booms cannot be deployed, okay, or it's difficult to use booms to concentrate the oil. So in this case, what happens? There's an oil spill in the presence of ice. Now, using helicopters, certain surface agents or chemicals, which are also called herders, are added to the oil spill. All right. Now, what happens is these surface collecting agents or herders, they cause the oil spill to contract, and then they start accumulating at the center. So once the contracted slick is ignited, okay, then that oil slick or that oil spill which is concentrated there can burn off, and results in more than 90% of removal of the oil. So this is specially proposed for polar areas. Till at least I read that it was not put into practice, but this is what is being thought of, for example, for especially polar areas where booms cannot be deployed. So here surface collecting agents are used to concentrate or to contract the slick into a smaller area on the surface, and then that slick is ignited, and this serves in removal of more than 90% of the oil. Now, there are other ways also. Solidifiers or polymeric agents can also be used. From the name itself, you can realize here, you can get to know that when these chemicals are added, they solidify the oil, or they produce a kind of a gel, and on reaction with the oil, and that is then easy to retrieve from the water. So what are these? These are semi-solid porous materials that when added to the oil spill, they bind to the oil and create a solidified mass. This mass can then be physically removed from the water. And these solidifiers can actually also be stuffed, and they can be complemented or added to booms, or they could be sprinkled on the water surface. And once it binds to the oil, forms a gel or a solid-like substance, it can be removed. There is one that is currently in use. The name is Elastol. It's actually polyisobutylene. It mixes with oil and it forms a non-toxic gel-like substance, which is then easy to. Now coming to another category of of additives. So here these are sorbents. Now this is one example of a sorbent. If you see this person here, this responder is actually placing some material here on the in the water along the coast, and this is supposed to either absorb or adsorb the oil slick matter. So this technique is actually effective to remove the leftover traces of larger oil spills. So initially there are other methods used, and whatever is left over, that is removed using sorbents. Now, how is it done? Okay, so I have this here. So first you have these oil sorbents, which are taken to the point of impact, to the polluted area, and then these sorbents are actually spread over the oil. Then these sorbents, they actually soak up all the, soak up majority of the oil from the water. Then these are actually removed. The oil soaked sorbents are removed, and then they are taken back to land. And what is interesting here is that these oil soaked sorbents can be processed to remove the oil, and this recycled oil is then used for some purpose or the other. So oil can be recovered from these oil soaked sorbents, and then they are free for use again. So these are sorbents that are used to remove traces of larger oil spills. Now, what do they really contain, or examples of these? So first of all, examples of these are hay, peat moss, straw, vermiculite. All these components or compounds can be used as sorbents. And how do they work? They work by either absorption or adsorption, where the oil is absorbed only on the surface. And sorbents actually hold oil in them that is approximately between 3 and 7 actually take up. However, even here there are some disadvantages. During removal of these solvents from the water, lighter, thinner oil, it tends to leak out. And that is because of the added weight of the covered oil. So when you're trying to retrieve the solvent, some fractions of lighter, thinner oil could leak out. Also, if these sorbent materials are left behind in the marine environment due to any reason, or some part of it is left behind, it could pose a risk to aquatic life. Now coming to the next, and this is about in situ burning. If you notice in this picture, there's an oil spill here, okay, that has occurred, and it is then contained using a boom. And after that is done, one method is setting the oil slick on fire. Okay, so setting an oil slick on fire at the site of the spill, this is actually a very effective means of removing the surface oil. It removes up to 95% of the oil. And it converts it, of course, it's combustion, right? It converts it into carbon dioxide and water. For this to be effective, the thickness of that oil slick on the surface should be at least 3 millimeters. That's why it is combined with the use of booms. So fire-resistant booms are used to contain the oil, and then once that desired oil thickness is achieved, then that oil slick is set on fire. But definitely there will be some hear me? I have some network issues here. Yeah, can you Dr. Priya, can you hear us? She's lost.
Yeah, just hold on. We are coming. Dr. DeCosta will be back online. Just hold on. Yeah, Dr. Chanda, can you hear me? In a while, Dr. DeCosta will be there online. Just hold on for some time. There's about on this. Okay.
Hello.
Please put up your presentation.
I just have network now. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. I just okay.
Dr. DeCosta, you can put
I'll
up your video. It will give you more network.
just give me a moment, please. Sharing my presentation. Until this. Okay, can you see my presentation? I'll start. So we were discussing about these different management strategies for oil spills. So we have seen, just go back, we have seen bombs, booms, agents for use in the polar environment, and sorbents, solidifying agents, in situ burning, and I had reached here that in situ is burning, of course, definitely there are going to be disadvantages. What are these? It actually releases, okay, it actually releases gases. I'm Can you see slides?
Yes, yes.
And the slide
Can
title
see.
in situ burning. Yeah, we seem to have a network issue here. Please bear with us. Environment. All right. So now, so those are disadvantages. Also, burning as an option cannot be used.
Yeah, I do not know, Dr. DeCosta, you are able to hear me? Your voice is not clear. Perhaps some network issues.
Am I audible? Dr. Aftab?
Yeah, participants,
Am I audible?
please remain logged in. Dr. Priya is again getting on.
There seems to be a slight technical glitch that we are facing here. Please bear with us. Dr. Priya is trying to rejoin.
Dr. Priya, you can come to my system in my room. Dr. Priya, I don't know you are able to hear it. Otherwise, I'll come and physically let you know.
Hello?
Yes, Dr. Priya, we can hear you.
Can somebody please message? Okay, so I'll just share again. Sorry about the network issues. Presentation. Can you see this?
Yes.
It will take some time, I guess.
In full screen.
Again. Yeah, I'm sharing. Share the entire screen. Oh, so sorry. We can't seem to share this. Yes, sir. Yes.
Would you like to come to my room? Sit there.
This is a Google Meet issue, sir.
Google Meet is there. Yeah, dear participants, uh, this is basically a Google Meet issue there with regard to presentations. All right, please bear with us. These are things which are beyond our control, and we are trying best. I just went and checked with our bandwidth availability. They have dedicated a good amount of bandwidth for this training program. So not anything which is there on our side and in our hands. Please bear with us, okay? And Dr. DiCosta will be back.
Hello. I've managed to share my screen now. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the inconvenience. I've managed to share my screen now. I hope it's visible.
Yes, now it's visible.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. We were here in situ burning on this slide. So this is a very effective method for removal of oil, majority of the oil, up to 98%, but it releases gases, oil-based compounds, human health and the environment, but for a lot of the marine life also. Additionally, it can be used under heavy wind conditions because that leads to the formation of oil-water emulsions, which do not burn effectively. And an additional point to consider here, burning as a remedial measure must be carried out immediately after an oil spill. If you wait for more time, then the water oil emulsions begin to form. Will not burn effectively. So these are some points that need to be considered. Now moving on, we have dispersants which are also used. Now what exactly are these dispersants? So you notice here in the picture, this is supposed to be an aeroplane, which is, okay, this is an aeroplane which is actually releasing chemicals into the, there seemed to be a problem. I'm changing slides, but I guess you can't see it, but I'll still continue. Okay. So there are dispersants, which are actually chemical compounds, which are released on a large aerial scale. So dispersion is done by using aeroplanes, and these chemicals are sprayed over the surface of the oil slick. And this serves to spread the oil into a fine, thinner layer on the surface of the water. And it breaks the oil into smaller droplets. Once the oil is into smaller droplets, then the natural weathering, oxidation, and microbial action will subsequently take place. And this serves to accelerate the disintegration of oil. So that's why dispersants are used. Now, this measure is mainly used once the oil spill has already spread, either due to wave action or currents. And
so, I put some paper with you. It's not possible. That ganda soil to
oil. Hello. Yes.
That.
Okay, dispersants, they tend to protect air quality by reducing the volatile oil-based compounds that are released into the air. And chemical dispersants, they have a negative side as well. They could be detrimental to marine organisms. Also, when they have a tendency to form tar balls, which is a mixture of oil, water, sand, and debris. All of us are familiar with the tar balls. Therefore, dispersants as a measure are used only when their benefits far outweigh the risks involved. So remember, I said when people are deciding which strategy to use, they always measure the benefits versus the risks involved, and accordingly they select. After that, we have high pressure hot water washing system. Very high pressure. This is used for areas where the lead oil is inaccessible, either along the coastline, for example, rocky areas, etc., etc. And this serves, hot water, when it is sprayed at high pressure, it tends to dislodge the oil sludge. However, this was used for the Exxon Valdez oil spill. The picture shown here is of that, the Exxon Valdez oil spill remediation. Okay, so this technique actually causes more harm than good. That was discovered later on. So now it is no longer used. Now coming finally to something that linked to microbiology. So microbial bioremediation. So the concept of this is that oil droplets are made up of hydrocarbons. And we have microorganisms that can break down these hydrocarbons by using oxygen. they'll break down, they'll adhere to these hydrocarbon droplets or oil droplets, and so this is the concept for remediation purpose.
Yeah, this is the issue when we do programs on the online mode. Very often we have things which are not in our control.
Sir?
Please go ahead, Dr. Priya.
Yes, sir. Join. Yes. Need to share this again. Sharing. All right. So considering the issue again of screen sharing, I'm not attempting to share my presentation again, but I will continue because I just had a few more slides. So please listen to me. Okay, no visual slides, but kindly listen. Okay. All right. So microbial bioremediation strategies. Just switch on the video. All right. So microbial bioremediation strategies, there are three types. One is when the indigenous microorganisms on the hydrocarbons. Second one is when culture organisms that are capable of are added to the to speed up the process of hydrocarbon degradation. And the third is biostimulation, where nutrients are added to that oil spill area to speed up the growth of degrading microorganisms. So here we have adding cultures that can degrade hydrocarbons, and stimulation wherein nutrients are added to accelerate the growth of hydrocarbon degrading microorganisms. So this basically these are the microbial bioremediation strategies that are used. In fact, biostimulation is even for the Exxon Valdez oil spill. Now coming to oil spills in India, and I've actually labeled this slide as lurking dangers, just to tell you all since you can't see it here. So here I have just two examples of oil spills. One in Jan 2017, when two cargo ships collided off the coast in Chennai, and that led to oil spilling into the sea, which spread for about 34 kilometers and even polluted these beaches. Also were seen on Chennai. Then again, 2021, there was a mid-sea oil spill. This was reported from a Portuguese container, which was actually on its way from Colombo to another place, to another country. And midway, there was an oil spill in Indian waters, which was 450 kilometers off the Chennai coast. Now, all right, coming to the Indian perspective, how susceptible are Indian oil spills? I mentioned two examples. All right, I mentioned two examples, but there are many more. If you search on the net, you'll find many more. Now, India is one of the importers of crude oil, and Indian ports, the major Indian ports, 7,000 petroleum and crude oil tankers every year. Therefore, the risks of an oil spill are. And not just about what is, getting imported in India, etc. Even about 70% of the world's oil supplies are actually ferried to the Indian coastline, and this can also result in oil spills. So India has finally adopted the International Convention on Oil Pollution Preparedness, Response and Cooperation, OPRC. This was done immediately after it was adopted by the IMO. So India is already a signatory to that. And a national oil spill and disaster contingency plan in place. The Indian Coast Guard is the nodal agency, and the entire maritime zone of India is divided into 3 regions: West region, East region, and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Each of these 3 regions, West, East, and Andaman Islands, have a regional center and a regional commander. They also have a particular plan in place for that specific region. They have a response center where there are qualified personnel, and also they have all the equipment needed to address these oil spills. There are many other resources also who are working with them. All right. So share with you, I know it's been quite rocky, but what I want with you is that there are many strategies. However, these are chosen a particular case, like wind conditions, the nature of the oil spill, and all those factors that I mentioned. And we do have plans in place in India. The Coast Guard monitors all this, and I just hope that we are not have many such major incidents, at least in the future. So much for your patience. Thank you very much.
Dr. Priya, can you put on your video, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Priya. Thank you, Dr. Priya.
Nikita, Dr. Priya, and Chanda, please put on your videos, please.
I can't switch on my video.
I request everybody to please switch on videos.
Thanks, Doctor. Everyone, please put on their videos, please.
I request all the participants to kindly
please.
please switch on their videos so that we can take a screenshot for record purposes.
Yeah, the session is open for question answers, please.
Dr. Priya, I can see that there is a question for you in the chat box.
Okay.
The question is, Dr. Priya, I have a question regarding the bioremediation. Are there any reports of successful bioremediated sites? And also, are there reports of bacteria isolated from these contaminated sites which can be used for bioremediation? This question is by Ms. Bruti Naik.
Okay. So, yeah. So for this, there are reports. Okay. There are of bacteria used for bioremediation. Even in fact, for the Exxon oil spill, they were having remedial measures for that. Bioaugmentation was used. Nutrients were added. So bacteria were not added, but nutrients were added. For example, nitrogen and different forms of nitrogen, they were added to that site to speed up the degradation process. And there are reports from contaminated sites. However, these are specific to the site. So that is something that needs to be considered using bacteria. When an isolate is selected from a particular area, likely that it is going to be effective only in that particular area, or when there's an oil spill in in a similar geographical area. I hope I've answered. And in fact, also whether there are bacteria that can be used for bioremediation. There is also a superbug, a bacterium that is a Pseudomonas genetically modified to create 4 different hydrocarbons. Also there, so there's a lot of work being done on this. And I think I'll just continue reading on the chat screen. So, all right, there's a request for sharing. I'll give it to organizers, and if it can be sent to y'all, fine. I'll definitely send it. All right. There are no other prayer box. Udara. Let me just see. Yes. Okay. I'll type it also. @unigoa.ac.in. Yeah, I'll type it also in the.
Yeah, Dr. Priya.
You can contact me if you're.
Thank you. Yes.
Which method is highly effective against treating oil? Again, there is a combination of methods used. The initial step is containment. So using booms, okay? Using booms to contain the oil and calm enough, and if it is small enough oil spill, then you will resort to, all right? Yes, and especially if it is not in the vicinity of to burning, containing it and burning. Otherwise, using skimmers, burning, and it's actually a combination of whichever serves the purpose. In terms of effectiveness, best 98% of the oil is removed, but because of the disadvantages, we have to think about it again. Thank you so much, Adira Sirsak. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? If there are any questions pertaining to the previous sessions, you may please ask them now or type it in the chat box. There's one more question for you, Dr. Priya.
Okay, so there's one question about when the dispersants reduce the harmful volatile compounds in an oil spill, what are further methods of remediation for removal of those reduced compounds? If burning, to what extent is the environmental impact reduced? See, actually, as I mentioned, there are different methods used together. So, dispersants are used after the oil spill has already spread, and you cannot use a boom. That is when dispersants are used. Okay, so it's done aerially. So that's when it is used. And which are the further methods? So yeah, okay. I would just say that all the methods are used in combination. Fine. And if burning, to what extent is the environmental impact reduced? If 90%, if about 95 to 98% of the oil is removed, then within a short span of time, then you're limiting the spread of that oil spill to other areas. So that I feel is very successful. Okay. And any potential of using an integrated approach of microbes and nanomaterials in oil spill cleanup? Yes. In fact, now nanomaterials are being added in oil spill remediation technology. Nanomaterials are also being used. There are a lot of reports on that also. And what happens is it's bioremediation, whether you're using nanoparticles or microorganisms, it's biological. So there are very less disadvantages associated with it. However, it is slow. That's why it is used in combination with other methods. Even for Exxon Valdez, they used booms, then they used skimmers, then finally they even used bioremediation using bio-augmentation approach. So it varies from site to site and depending on the oil spill. If you all have any other questions, you all can even mail me. I've downloaded some references. If you all want, I can send it to you all. Thank you.
If there are no more questions, I would request Dr. Chanda Bede, Assistant Professor, SAOAS, Goa University, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening. On behalf of NIDM and Goa University, I take the privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on the first day of our 3-day training program on risk assessment and disaster management in coastal areas. I thank Sri Rajendra Ratno, IAS, Executive Director, NIDM, and Honorable Vice Chancellor, Goa University, Professor Harlal Menon, for giving us an opportunity to host this program. I thank the Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Savita Kerkar, for gracing the occasion and addressing the gathering. I express my gratitude to Professor Santosh Kumar, Head, GIDRR Cell, NIDM, for his support throughout the preparatory phase. He could not be with us today due to some technical problems. I thank Mr. Ali Haider, NIDM, and Dr. Aftab Khan, Goa University, for all the support and help. I would like to thank our invited speakers, Dr. Vikrant Birde and Dr. Priya DiCosta, for accepting our invitation and sharing their knowledge. I would like to thank all the participants for their interest in the subject and for joining us today. Lastly, I thank my colleagues of NIDM and Goa University, Mr. Haider and Dr. Nikita, for their cooperation in the organization of this program. Thank you all. There's a small announcement. Tomorrow's session will begin at 2 p.m. I request all of you to join using the same link, today's link. Thank you. You want to click again? Nisha?
Okay. Just announce it.
Can you all please put on your videos again? All the participants who are unable to
Participants, please put on your
you can
videos
still
again.
try so that we can click a screenshot. This is for record purposes.
You can say no. We also do screenshot. Yeah. Print screen. We also do print screen.
Dr. DiMello, can you please put on your video? Dr. Joshua DiMello.
Yeah, sir, video is not working.
Thank you.
Yes.
Fine, okay.
Have a good day.
After one to a
Yeah, nice to see Dr. Sadhvi Quatra from France.
I'm not yet a doctor, sir. I'm just a
Okay, yeah.
student. Thank you so much for welcoming me.